Spotlight is supported by AndyMark. What projects and events will you be doing to get ready for kickoff? AndyMark has the components and supplies to get you going all year. Go to andymark.com and keep your team inspired.
Hey, welcome to a special edition of Spotlight. We're going to be talking about the last episode of The Fosters featuring First Robotics on their show. And I have joining me Pauline Tasci from 3476 Code Orange and Jacob Komar, who was the FTA on the episode, was a lucky guy that got flown out by First to go check it out. Pauline, do you mind kind of just giving a brief overview of what the episode was about, kind of what the origin was to it? And Jacob, if you want to tune in, feel free.
Sure. So the episode last night was about a robotics competition that the cast of the Fosters were competing in. There were three episodes previous that was leading up to it. There was an episode with some FTC robots, and then they were building an FRC robot. They were in build season. And then last night's episode was the competition. So that's basically the gist. But how it got started is the producers actually came to the LA Regional, and they went inside. They were invited guests, and they thought it was so cool and that they can incorporate it into their storyline, and thought, hey, we make a TV show about teenagers. This is a teenager thing. Let's put this in our storyline. And a couple of the RPC members from LA kept in contact, and a former senior mentor actually, kept in contact. And when they started to write the episode, they were there to technical advise and add realism, get real teams and robots there, and facilitate communication between First and the show. But ultimately, the Fosters did write the script, and First was there to approve when their name was being used, but it was still a discussion. Things go back and forth to get everything sorted out. And I was there on the show as someone to represent Code Orange as the adult. I knew about the show previously, and I came on to help add some realism during the casting. I didn't know the script until I was there. And basically that's what I was doing. It was 3 full days of filming. They paid us and gave us food, so we were pretty happy with that.
You don't work for Boeing, do you?
I don't work for Boeing.
All right, good.
But another aerospace company.
So I am an FTA for First, and I do a lot of other volunteer stuff for First. And so a couple weeks before the filming, I got a call from the head of the FTAs, and he asked me, hey, are you available these days? Are you interested in going out to California to film this TV show? And I said, yeah, sure. This sounds great. So I had no information when I arrived on set other than it was The Fosters, a show that I had never seen before, and that was it. So kind of coming into it with a fresh experience, with fresh eyes, was interesting, especially as I read the script at first. I think the first time we all read the script, we all kind of looked at it and went, wow, this somebody approved this? This is, are we good to go for this? But as we started filming and sort of going through all the different scenes and talking with the director and some of the other writers who provided input, it started to make a lot more sense, especially in context with the rest of the show. And the one thing that I think is really important to remember when looking at both the season 4 episode 8 Girl Code and the 3 episodes prior, and especially those 3 episodes prior, is that to me this is so cool because we talk about changing culture, and we talk about how one of the main messages in what we're doing here is to inspire and to change the culture. And the fact that we have a nationally syndicated television show that is a teen drama that has normal kids doing like normal kid stuff and all the kind of stuff that you'd expect in a teen drama. The fact that they came to First and said, hey, what you're doing is cool. A lot of kids do this. We want to get this into our program, not as a spotlight on First, not to talk about what First and its ideals are, and not to talk about all those sort of specifics, but just as these kids might be involved in a baseball team or a football team, here they are, they're involved in a First team. And to me, that is so cool. So like, is there some vulgar language in the episode? Yeah. Are the kids doing drugs and hooking up? Yeah. But to me, the fact that we get to be a part of that because we're in the middle of changing the culture is the coolest thing.
Yeah, and I'd like to add on to that. The show on average gets about 1 million viewers, and I get all the controversy behind everything. I understand. I read the script the first time too, but we just reached 1 million people about a program that they wouldn't know would have existed otherwise. And I think that's super cool.
When,
and I
when
think
was,
it's awesome.
when was the filming done, by the way? Like, what was the timeline?
In about June 20th to 23rd or something like that.
So this could have just been a roll-off of the TSI MFD stuff, right? Just to build on it. I got a good response. Just build off of that.
And to kind of build off what Pauline was saying just a second ago is that even if people watch this and have no idea what FIRST is, if it doesn't drive them to the FIRST website, if it doesn't put them in contact with the regional director, if the result of this is that a kid goes out and buys a Mindstorm set or watches BattleBots and gets interested in some other form of robotics, to me, that's just as important. I mean, that totally fulfills the mission of what we're trying to do with FIRST and the FRC.
So one of the things maybe I'll add on to that is when I was in high school, and this is coming up again because BattleBots is back, is when I was in high school, we resented so much being compared to BattleBots for things, right? And this was, we're talking 14, 15 years ago. And now that's back with BattleBots in particular, and I think we can translate this to the show, is that I don't really care anymore what we're compared to as long as people are talking about, like, within reason, right? As long as we're being talked about, as long as we're raising awareness and people are becoming more cognizant. And I think maybe to add on to what you said, where maybe they go get a Mindstorms kit, to me it's like maybe now when they hear Robotics Club, they'll actually be interested in finding out more. And I think that's a key takeaway for something like that.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the show. They didn't try to make the Robotics Club or the robotics competition seem all nerdy and that only geniuses could do it. They made it seem like something anyone could do and that it was cool and competitive and was a sport, like the way we view it. And that's the way it was viewed in the show. And I think that's awesome for kids to see.
Yeah, and even like a step above that, portrayed in the show within the club in those earlier episodes, the competition between the kids and the brutalness of trying to maintain their position in the team and to prove themselves and all that kind of stuff, I think is all very positive messaging.
Is there anything else? And I said this is going to be kind of unstructured, and we'll field a couple questions too if you guys are okay with that, which I will filter a little bit. Is there anything that we've heard from after this? Is FIRST working on anything after? So like this year we saw Vex, for example, on ESPN2, which was a great success for them. Their ratings numbers were, I believe, close to double what they were expecting for their ratings on that. And obviously, it sounds like, we're going to get a good reach with the Fosters as well. Do you guys know of anything that FIRST is maybe has in the pipeline to try to promote and advance FIRST in more of a limelight like this?
I'm not aware of anything that's public at this point.
Same.
All right. Can we talk a little bit more about your guys' experience in the show from a consulting perspective and how you inputted? I mean, I know you said that there's always going to be some Hollywood going on where FIRST gives their input and then things have to be a certain way because it's TV and television. But can you talk about some of your personal experiences you might have had, like specifically, like is there anything specifically you might have given advice about or might have tried to help impact or change the show a little bit?
So I got to say, I was shocked. I showed up on set and met with the art director immediately because I obviously was in charge of field build. And in that process, the field build and working with the art director, they had gone through methodically and recreated team shirts and made new team shirts and logos and banners. And like, you should see this place. It was 12 pits, of which 4 or 5 of them were entirely created by art people and props people who had never been to a robotics competition before. But what blew me away even more was talking to the director, April, in the days before filming and then during filming, her attention to detail, and more than just attention to detail, wanting to get it. Like the fact that we're kind of setting up, and as we had the field set up, she called me over and said, hey, if a robot were to pin another robot here, would that make sense? Like from a strategy point of view, is that like, and I'm like, whoa, like, in my head, I'm going, I know you're just going to use half a second or a second of a shot of someone pinning, but the fact that they were concerned about whether or not it would make sense to our audience was pretty cool. Pauline can speak a little bit more to this because she's a little more acquainted with the California people, but the folks out there who helped write the episode are not like the first employees, but mentors and a former senior mentor who helped with the writing of the episode. I think they did a pretty good job in general, and there was definitely openness to feedback throughout the filming process that we really took to heart. And there were several times during filming where we'd start something and one of us would say, hey, we may want to do this differently. We may want to phrase this differently. We may want to do something a little bit differently because that's how it would be. That's how it would make sense to our audience. And by the way, so this is just, Pauline, maybe you have a thought on this, but the Boeing thing I think is being blown a little bit out of proportion. The line in the script and maybe listening to it a few more times will help put it better. But the line in the script is, this is a high school robotics competition, not Boeing. And the way that I always took that anyway was that they were not comparing or saying even that the mentors were from Boeing. To me, it was just more like, this is not a high-tech industrial research environment. This is a high school robotics competition. And I think that's the way that it was meant to be played off. But it's to my understanding, I don't have any official confirmation on this, but it's to my understanding that Boeing cleared it, Boeing Corporate cleared it. So
one of the things to add to that, too, is I think there's a different light that we as firsters view it in and as what the general public views it in. And I'll agree, as a firster viewing that, I view that as they were attacking mentor-based teams. I'll be upfront, and I think that, watching it, and I know that's not necessarily true, but, there is going to be a perspective for something like that. However, if we put ourselves in a non-firster consumer position, I don't necessarily know. I think they just view that as more kind of a proddy jab thing instead, other than something.
It's great
personal.
drama. It's great television.
Right. Yeah.
That team was there in order to be the antagonist and to get you to root for the team on the show. That's what they were there for. It wasn't to create some controversy for the first community. It was there to excel the storyline even further. So yeah, I mean, I'm an aerospace engineering student, so I didn't take offense to it, so they shouldn't either.
You might want to kind of go through a chat, and there's a couple questions I'm okay asking on here. I know that there's a lot of high passions going on right now, but a question I'll ask is, there's if you look at it on Cheat Delphi, obviously there's a lot of messaging going around. So one of the questions that Billy Call asked, and I'll paraphrase a little bit, is what are your opinions from the critics of the show that say that robotics took away from the show instead of adding to it?
You mean critics online, not from our community?
I don't know the specification. I'm sure he'll clarify that. But you can. I don't know what critics online said, so I don't have a source for that.
I think what he was talking about were the reviews that were online, which there are plenty of reviews online. So my opinion on it is everyone's going to love something and everyone's going to hate something. People have their own view on the show. People who watch the show actively and have watched it all throughout all the seasons, they are in love with these characters. They appreciate these characters. They're fighting for them. And when they see something that they don't personally agree with, they take offense to it. But on the other hand, there are people who are loving the robotic storyline, and you can see it all over the Facebook feeds and the social media things. People are commenting like, hey, I heard about this when I was in high school, but I never really knew what it was. And, oh, those robots are so cool. Are those real? And stuff like that. And that's what makes it so cool. So I understand that there are critics not liking it, but there's critics not liking great movies all the time, so I don't think it's anything to be worried about.
If we reached one kid, to me that's worth it, right?
I think there's certain lines that need to be drawn with that, though. I'm not necessarily saying the show broke any of those lines, but there is kind of a grandiose perspective that's got to be taken into play too, and where is that line that it's worth it, right? And like I said, I think a lot of this perspective comes from those who are actively engaged and involved in FIRST, which is our core audience. I mean, those are the people we love and breathe that help support this show. But those are the people who are going to take a lot of exception to it. And I think, once again, a lot of it is taking that step back and trying to put yourself in the mindset of the average consumer, the average viewer who isn't in robotics, because the average person isn't in robotics, and kind of understanding something like that.
Well, and I think to circle back kind of what I started at the beginning of the show talking about was that if in order to fulfill Dean's kind of idea and message that we need to change the culture, that's definitely going to come with some risks, and it's definitely going to come with changing some of our culture as well in order to be able to slip into the mainstream.
Yeah. We'll go through a couple more questions and we'll wrap up here. There's a question by BattleBots asking, once again, we'll paraphrase a little bit because phonetically things don't always work out. What do you think about viewers who aren't involved in First? Like, there was a mention in regards to I believe it's 1 part medieval tournament, 2 parts something else, right?
2 parts BattleBots.
Was it 2 parts? I couldn't remember.
Yes, 2 parts BattleBots.
So I guess where did that come from, and is that kind of painting First in the wrong light?
That was like one comment on an IMDb post, I think.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily, a bad thing. Like we said earlier, comparing us to BattleBots, it's fine. That's has been on TV for a very long time. It's what people think when they think of robots. And to get our name out there, people associate us with things that are, popular. And BattleBots has been popular. And it is medieval themed. Like, there's no denying Stronghold is medieval. So I don't really, take much offense to that comment. But I think it showed robots are cool, and that's what matters.
And I think maybe the thought, at least my thought process behind that would be, is that not every year is medieval themed. But then again, to play the devil's advocate of that is anybody a year from now going to watch that? Probably not, right? I mean, unless you're going to go through and you're going to rewatch a whole marathon of the Fosters, you're probably not going to see that, the retention rate of watching episodes drastically falls off after 2 weeks. We got some answers. All right, I'm trying to see anything else that is objectively worded on here, and that's.
Here, while you look, I'll tell a little story that
Please
I thought
do,
was
and
cool
then
from the show.
we'll wrap up then.
Yeah, so there were a couple of, real teams from LA and then Code Orange from Orange County, but they were all involved in the show on the 3 days of filming. And what I found really interesting is teams brought their practice bots in to play these fictitious teams, and teams did a lot to them to make them realistic on the show. 4201 Vitruvian painted their robot pink so they could play Baby Got Bot. And they got their girls to dress up in the uniforms, and I thought that was so cool that they were that dedicated to the show and painted their entire robot pink without taking off any electronics, which I thought was amazing. So I think that's cool, and all the teams were working so hard. The set days were long. If you were over 18, call time was like 7 a.m., and we left at 10 p.m. every day. It was long days, but the kids loved being a part of something.
It's just like a first regional pretty much then, right?
Basically, but with less sleep.
But free
which
food.
Is surprising. And free food.
It's like volunteering at a first regional. There you go. We'll kind of wrap it up. I'll throw this to either one of you because I always feel these are very open questions. But was there anything in regards to any sexism on the show? Did you guys feel that there was anything painting females or males in a negative light or anything like that?
So one of the points that the director made sort of in talking about, in framing certain shots and stuff like that, was about how one of the goals of this and her interest in this episode to begin with was in promoting women in STEM. And I think that was pretty obvious through the tertiary team, Baby Got Bot, their role, and also throughout the previous episodes, the girls having to fight for their position on the team. That is pretty cool to me. In terms of like, I don't know how much more that question is asking than that.
But however you want to interpret it, really. So
yeah.
And I think the only thing, like, I'll bring a couple times, and names are definitely not my strong suit, but one of the lead female characters definitely came off a bit crass many times.
Mariana.
Yeah, and how she was reflected, and I think that that there might have been some viewers who felt like that just gave kind of the females being in STEM kind of a negative light.
Well, she also, in context, was dealing with a drug issue during the course of the event. I mean, sure. And I think that was definitely, they were trying to paint that in that she was taking Jesus's ADHD medication out of prescription. And I think that was part of that, was that she was this sort of out of character person who had this drive that she otherwise wouldn't. But I think that to say that that's sexist, I mean, if that was a male in that same role, would you be saying the same thing? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, and I think the other characters who were women in the show were depicted great. The person who was doing the strategy and the other driver for the Anchor Bots team, they were so excited. They walk into the regional and they're like, wow, this is cool. They're, trying to calm Mariana down. I mean, I get intense at competitions all the time. Don't run into me at a competition. And sometimes people have to calm me down. Like, it's realistic. As to stuff being sexist, the only thing, that kind of irked me was the whole bitches get stuff done. I don't know if I can say that word here. So
no, that's all right. We're open. You're
Okay.
good. I was going to ask about what the crowd was chanting, too, because people are saying there's profanity in that.
Yeah, that's what it was. But I think that it added to the storyline. It was from an episode back when some of her classmates called her a bitch, and she was like, you know what? Like, we get stuff done. And so I understand the drama behind it and everything, but that's the only thing that, I could take as sexist that people are viewing.
And even to your point a little bit, Tyler, a moment ago, is that the other team, the Baby Got Bot, when they walk into competition and they sit down on the field next to them, one of the protagonist team's characters, one of the main characters, says she I forgot the line, but it's like she looks like she hates me, or she looks like they're like something about the way that she looks. And then when the team comes over to talk to them, the comment while they're walking away is, "Wow, she was nice." And like there was almost a moment of happiness and contrast with Mariana, who's the character who's acting out a character, the female character acting out a character throughout the episode.
Sure. All right, we're going to be running out of time here. Any last things you guys want to add or input in regards to this topic?
Let me think. I hope everyone enjoyed some of the cool robot scenes. They were really funny to film because we didn't actually play full matches. We just pretended. So it was really interesting.
It was crazy running the field without field border pieces missing and dolly track all over the place and jibs all over the place, and it was not a
terrified. Field. I played a student driver, and I was so scared I was going to run into the director every time.
Awesome. Cowboy Jesus, anything from you, sir?
I hope our community enjoyed it, and I hope that our community takes it with a grain of salt and sees that maybe this could be positive for our community. I think a lot of our community enjoyed it too. I mean, not all of the comments on Delphi are negative. In fact, many of them are quite positive. And other than that, bitches get stuff done.
Title of the show, right? All right, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. That's going to wrap it up for the special segment Spotlight. You can catch us at youtube.com/First Updates Now or live at twitch.tv/First Updates Now. Thank you, everybody.
This has been a First Updates Now production. Visit us at firstupdatesnow.com or find us under First Updates Now on Facebook or Twitter.